morning, guys. That was glorious day. Welcome, because it is a glorious day. Fits perfectly, doesn't it? Welcome to Rhema Central Coast. Welcome to the start of what I hope will be a pretty fantastic, if not glorious day. I'm Lindy, guys. Welcome to Rhema Central Coast. Welcome to a new start. It's one of those things I think we have to be reminded sometimes that a new start begins, obviously sometimes just in the very moment. It might be a choice of going, okay, last hour, 10 minutes, whatever, was an absolute shocker. But hopefully today, from here on, we're going to see some good things. But also, the moment that the sun rises in the morning, that's the start of a new day, and it is the start of a new opportunity. So whatever happened this week, guys, if it was not good, let's leave it behind. Let's get things started. Let's keep moving on, because there is plenty for us to celebrate. And one of the things that we can celebrate, and we have been celebrating, is the goodness of God. Over the last few weeks, we've been talking about the things in our life that leave us with a sense of, oh, wow, life is good. It's that coziness, that sort of sense of warmth where we think about the things in our life that are good. This week, guys, I am taking a little bit of a, not a break. No, not even close to that, actually. It's kind of like more of a personal reminder that I've had this week of the things that give me assurance, and I hope for you the same, that God has been with us from the beginning of time, really, and he will be with us until the end of time as we understand it. He is an amazing God. He's a God who is just, his concepts are mind-blowing. And to think that he uses us from one generation to the next to pour into what happens in the following one. I think that's pretty mind-blowing. It's a bit of responsibility on our part. We do have our part to play, but there is this sense of thanks when we look back at the generations who have gone before us, and how they have handled things, how they have dealt with, how we do life. From a nationalist perspective, we look at our land, and yes, it has become almost customary to be thankful for those who traditionally have looked after our space, our life, if you like it, our living space here in Australia, the land that we live on. That is a part of things that we can be thankful for. But more specifically, guys, I'm talking about our own family and the generations before us that have carried through and helped us get to where we are now. Now, I know your first thought might be, oh, you have no idea about my family, Lindy. True, that is true, I don't. I do know that even families who are messy, who have a history that is not good, that is messy, that has perhaps left you in a bit of a spin. Perhaps you're still working through the impacts or the after effects of that. I do know this, though. God is a God of restoration. He's a God of, he works all things for good. I say that probably nearly every week, actually, but even the messy stuff, guys, he weaves his way through. He pulls it together and he says, I am doing a new thing. Perhaps even if you've had generation upon generation upon generation of hurts, of bad choices, of things that you just think, oh man, my family are really like that. Perhaps you're the starting point for something else. Perhaps you are the starting point for a new way, a new method, a new perspective in your family. How awesome is that? Stick with me. We're going to explore the impact of generations this morning and how assuring it is that God knows what he's doing through all of it. I'll see you in a little bit. So fill my cup. Yeah, good way to think about how to do today. Fill my cup, God. Let it overflow. That was by Andrew Rip. Again, fill my cup. Good song. Welcome, guys. Welcome to Rhema Central Coast. I'm Lindy. I'm your Sunday morning host. Thanks for hanging out with me this morning. We are talking about things that leave us feeling a sense of coziness. That whole need to absorb all the good stuff and really process what it does for us. Now, from a physiological perspective, it does great things for our bodies to focus on things that are good. And I think there's no better way to start our Sunday but by giving thanks to God for the things that He has done and continues to do in our life. Specifically this morning, guys, we are talking about the generations that perhaps have gone before us or the generations to come. How have they impacted who we are? How have they impacted how we do life? These are the questions that we need to ask. And ultimately, I hope and pray you can get a sense of thanks from that, because it is so rewarding to look back. Now, in this last little bit, the last few weeks, so what is it, about 2 weeks ago now, just over, my mother-in-law and my sister-in-law came from the States. My mother-in-law is turning 80 in just about a week and a half or something. My mum is turning 70 tomorrow. So we've had a lot of big birthday celebrations at a time in our family life that is pretty chaotic. My son has been doing his trial HSC exams, and it's pretty full on. But it gave me a chance to really think about the generations that have gone before me, to be thankful for our mothers, my mother-in-law and my mother, and how they have done things to, obviously raise us, my husband and I, but the impact that they have had on my kids, my children, their prayers, the prayers that they have prayed for us as a family, but also for their grandchildren. We will never know the impact of what that has had on their life fully. I really do believe that. I do know that when my daughter was in hospital after she had her car accident, that was not a great one. If you've never heard that story before, it was not a fun experience. And she obviously couldn't leave the bed. She had spinal injury. So she was rushed into the hospital with, all this stuff that you only see on the movies, and then suddenly it's your daughter and it's like, oh, okay. I did not contact my mum that day. I just got to the hospital. But my husband had been in contact with her. And obviously her and my dad turned up to the hospital, and they were there as she was there. We all kind of arrived at the same time, actually. But my daughter surprised me because, you could tell she found comfort in the fact, okay, mum's here, it's going to be okay. I think that tends to be a thing we all do. But then when my mum was there, she couldn't move any part of her body, but she could move her hand. So she reached across and grabbed my mum's hand. And I stood there, and that was a pretty powerful moment because I realised the power of the generations that go before us. And my mum, I watched my mum's face. My mum was kind of like, oh, wow. Like, she's really like, oh, okay. I'm so glad I came for this. Grandparents, you have a role to play, and I encourage you to keep nurturing that, keep being available to your grandchildren in whatever capacity you can. I know family life is messy, but you don't know the impact of what you are doing in their life. So keep praying for them, keep showing up, keep doing what you can, because it goes a long way. I'll leave it there. And welcome back, Hosties. Welcome back to Rhema Central Coast this Sunday morning. Hope you're off to a good start. Listen, we are talking here this Sunday morning about something that kind of will hopefully give you a bit of a positive start to your day. That warm, cozy feeling, that assurance that God is good, God is on your side, well and truly, that He has your back, that we can be assured that He is the anchor that goes from one time to another. We often talk here on a Sunday morning about how we are promised that God is the Alpha and the Omega. He is the beginning, He is the end. He sees all things in between. And when we look at time, we can look at generations. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, guys, when I'm talking about blessings, and I'm talking about time, and I'm talking about what actually happens in and amongst both those things, I'm talking about the generational, blessings that are passed down, and the blessings of generations who have gone before us, the generations that are to come. Generations, if you talk, from one generation to another, being able to comprehend that God has been amongst it, since time, if you like it, time as a concept, even began. He had an idea, He had a plan. And if you look at your life now and you look back and you think of how you got to where you are, there is a really good chance that it has something to do with the generations that have gone before you. I often will sit and look at my own mother and my own father, and look at the journeys that their parents had to get them to be able to be in a place to raise me. And I look at the situations, the experiences that I had as a child, as a teen, and what that has meant in how I have raised my kids for their generation. The things that have happened in the lives of those who have gone before us, the family members that we may or may not have met, the way that they were developed as people, the way that they experienced things. Somewhere along the line, there is a good chance that you are where you are as a direct result of things that happened before you were even thought of. Now, yes, I know that there can be situations where you can flip those thoughts and you can see that, if you call it generational curses, if you look at that, and there are scriptural references to that, I understand there can be things that can be passed down that way too. But today, I don't want to focus on the negative. Certainly, I guess if you want to think big, broad, all that stuff, certainly we know that we've got a God who can deal with those generational curses, and he can break behavioural patterns, behavioural traditions that have been passed on from one generation to another. So even in that, there is something that is good. But I'm talking today those cozy things, those things that have been passed down. Now, let me ask you, what is something that you are thankful for from the generations before you? For me, it is a generation, it's a family, a line of people who have gone before me, who have been a praying people. The prayers that my grandma prayed, I still look at my life sometimes and I think, I'm sure that you were a part of this. I'm sure the prayers that you put into me being as stubborn as I was, as very, what's the word? I hope I was never self-absorbed, but I probably was. Just so self-focused with what I wanted, what I needed. My grandma was such a gentle lady. She never had to say much, but she said it all. When there was things that I needed to change in my life, she might not speak to me directly. She probably would, but it was always with a gentle tone. But more than that, I know that behind the scenes, she was praying, and she was praying hard. I know that there were friendships, relationships that she was praying about. I know that she saw things in the people that I had kind of, spent my time hanging out with as a teenager, as a young adult. I know that there were things that she couldn't quite make sense of. She was kind of like, I don't understand this. Why are you gravitating towards this? And I'll guarantee those prayers really paid off. I learnt to make smarter choices and to surround myself in people who are really, they've got my back. And then I really put back to the generations that have gone before me. My mum, obviously, is a prayer warrior. My dad and I have a good, solid spiritual, there's room for us to just talk about the real stuff. And I love that. So guys, what I want to say to you, if you're a dad, if you're a man who has an influence on other people, you are so worthy. You have so much to offer to the generations who are just starting to rise now, to the generations still to come. I want to encourage you. Speak life into them. And for the mums, for the grandmothers, all that, you have so much you can offer in terms of how you support the generations to come, or that are already in your life. Perhaps they're grandchildren, perhaps they're what do you call them? Nieces, nephews. I don't even know what you call that. But you have a role. Every one of us have a role to ensure that the same things that we can take away from our life, the thankfulness that we have in the people that we have been blessed with, they can have the same thing. And prayer goes a long way, guys. I know I said that in the last little segment, but yeah, certainly just being that prayer warrior behind the scenes to bless the generations to come. We've got a role to play, and I think we really need to embrace it. So get behind it. That's what I'm saying. I'll see you soon. And welcome back, guys. Welcome back to Rhema Central Coast. I'm Lindy. Welcome to Sunday mornings. Welcome to the start of what I hope will be a great week for you. I hope you've had a good couple of weeks. I wasn't here last week. It was just a bit chaotic. It was just one of those not going to happen sort of scenarios. It happens every so often. And I just Realize that, you know what, I am in too far, too deep, too much going on. I have to just I have to work it out. So I apologize for that, but I'm so thankful I'm back again today. Guys, we're talking about blessings. We're talking about the gift of blessings. We're talking about those cozy feelings that we get from the realization that God has our back. And when we look at Genesis, right back at the beginning of the Bible, we look at, reference to the blessing of generations. Genesis 9:12, and God said, "This is the sign of the covenant which I make between me and you and every living creature that is with you for perpetual generations." Genesis 17:7, "And I will establish my covenant between me and you and your descendants after you in their generations, for an everlasting covenant to be God to you and your descendants after you." You know, I love that. It's this promise of I'm here and I will be here from one generation to another. That is the most beautiful thing that I think we can take away from this morning. Yeah, we can talk about what we can do for the future generations. Yeah, we can talk about how thankful we are for the generations who went before us. And yes, this is the whole basis of where we're at. We have a God who is and has promised us that he has made a covenant between us and him. We are those generations that followed from this time. We can see it. We can see how good God is from one generation to another. Now, perhaps you are someone who is praying for your own child. Perhaps you are someone who is yet to hold the next generation. Perhaps the idea of that is just like, whoa, no, hold up. I'm not even interested in thinking about that yet. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter the concept. Praying for the generations that aren't even here yet and declaring that God has got them. God has got them completely. He's got you, he's got me, he's got all of us, but he's got those people who are yet to be born into this world. I don't know about you, but I find that so surreal. It's a beautiful concept, but it's also a reality. It's like that concept of God. He is the Alpha and the Omega. It is almost like we are stepping into that understanding that he is in the now. He was back there and he is in the generations to come. Guys, pray, pray, pray. Pray for those children you haven't yet met. Pray for those grandchildren you have not met yet. Pray for those who hear God's voice, who are yet to be the leaders that take people to the next step or the next awareness of God's movement. And they're coming through the generations rising now and the generations yet to come. And we got a pretty powerful role to play. I guess this morning, there's a big focus on prayer. So keep them in your mind, keep them in your thoughts, and keep praying for the generations to come because God is yet to be seen. Even more. Yeah, huge concept. And welcome back. That was Symphony. Good morning. Welcome to Rhema Central Coast. Welcome to the start of a Sunday. And it is actually it's the last little point that we're going to spend some time together this Sunday morning. But welcome back for the time being. I am Lindy and I've been hanging out with you guys here for the last few hours now. But as I said, it's time for me to get ready to kind of make a move for the rest of the day. But before we do that, I just want to close things off because we've been talking about the blessing of generations, or the generations that have gone before us. What a gift it is that we have those who have gone before us, who have done things well, who have done things with a prayerful and, just a great approach to life. Now, I know, I've covered this already this morning, that there is, that's not everyone. Not everyone has those experiences where they can look at their generational, just their story, how they've evolved as a person and think, wow, my ancestors or those before me did a great job at making good choices, all that sort of stuff. I know. We are not all of the same story, but I'll guarantee that there is something that you can be thankful for when you look at the generations who have gone before you, for one of two reasons. Perhaps those situations weren't good, but somehow you have found yourself in a position where Everything's been pulled together, and somehow you have still managed to find God, to find Jesus, to be able to have a relationship with him. And really, everybody's story, to be able to get to that point where we do have that relationship with Christ, there are circumstances that happen before us and our existence even that lead us to a position of, working it out for ourselves, to realise that we do want and need to have a relationship with Jesus. And as I said, that can come from either direction. It can be through generations of, situations that aren't great or choices that aren't fantastic, but it can also come from those who have made great choices, who have made sacrifices to ensure that those generations to come, which happens to be us in this time and this season, those, they have made a call that has ultimately led us to be in a place where we have the freedom to, first of all, hear about who God is, who Jesus was as he walked the globe. We live in a nation right here, right now, where we can, easily talk about that. And the generations before us have led us to a place where we can do that. Certainly, again, as I said previously, if you've been listening this morning, we have a part to play in how we protect that for our children and their children and the children that they are yet to have themselves. It's a big concept when you think about generations, but there is blessing when we think about that. Now, a little bit of a side one. Another thing that I think I was thinking about this week is those, even just the music. If you think of church, perhaps you're someone who church has been a big part of the generations before you, and so church life has been something that is just the norm. For me, that is certainly the case for me. I'm thankful that I did have family who have just been, just always the churchies. So it's kind of just been the norm for me in my life. Now, having said that, yes, I've been through situations and times where I wanted nothing to do with the church. I was like, no thanks. It's all about hypocrisy. I want nothing to do with that. And I certainly found out that indeed I actually did want and need people who love Jesus in their life to be a part of my life. I needed those interactions, and the church was a great place for me to get back to. But my family, my mother, my father, my grandparents, especially my grandma, and my pa. Now that's grandma was from my mum's side, pa was from my dad, so it's different. But yeah, I know that church and church involvement has been big to those generations who've gone before me. And I am not someone who enjoys the good old hymn. I kind of find myself rolling my eyes at the thought of having to live and breathe hymns. I'm being perfectly honest. But there are some songs, some hymns that I hear at different times, and they bring me back to my grandma. They bring me back to the things that she used to sing over me as a kid. What a friend we have in Jesus. It was one that we would hear, often when she was just trying to stir us up. But I look now and I think, what was she trying to tell us when she would sing those songs over us? There's several other, there's quite a few hymns that I have heard over the years, really, that I had forgotten about, and then I would hear them and think, oh, my grandma used to sing that. These are things that we pass down from one generation to another, or perhaps even skip a generation. Think about what you do. Think about what you bring into the world. Think about those who are listening to what is happening, because there is a good chance that the generations that are just floating around in your life in some way are taking it in. I also had a moment this week where I found I don't even know how true it is, so I don't even know if it's really much point to bring it to the surface today, but I can't help but mention it today because it struck me. I was talking about, I will find the actual article and share with you specifically what it says. So it's along the lines of some Bible verses that have been found, and let me just see. Oh, it hasn't come through. I had sent it to myself. But, you know, we are finding more and more that history is bringing up these findings of things that have been passed down from generation to generation. I will follow that up and try and bring it in, you know, into conversation at some point. But yeah, I found these, you know, these information, these things that have been passed down from generation to generation. Some of the stuff that's been found has been, you know, amazing. And yeah, I think it goes back to the Alpha and the Omega. It is knowing that God is in all seasons, He's in all times and all generations. And that, my goodness, is such a blessing to us. So go about your week this week. Say thank you to God for being there in this particular generation, for the generations that have been and the generations to come. It is a blessing and we have so much to be thankful for. Stick with us this morning. We've got church on the radio coming up. Looking forward to hanging out with you guys again next week, and I'll see you then. Bye, guys.